Any more questions? Okay, so now Mario to speak about ADF.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me? Okay. So today we are going to talk about the why, how, and what we do in Alfresco. If my thing works here. Doesn't. Come on. Okay, so I'm Mario Romano. I'm director and engineer in the London office. In the London office, we do ADF activity and APS. I also created 3 video courses with Pact about Java, Spring Boot, Spring, and Angular. So I'm still really much involved with the development. And usually I do a presentation just about ADF, what is ADF. Now, because I have done that presentation many times, today I decided to change a little bit. Also because this weekend I have been reading this book, which inspired me. It's a really good book about start with why. It explains, this guy, Simon Cary, it explains you how, why you should start with the why instead with what. Many companies define themselves starting with the what. For example, many companies say, we build computers. This is how we build computers, and you should buy computers from us. Then successful companies start defining themselves from why. For example, Apple's is what Simon says. Start defining themselves saying, we want to challenge the status quo. How we challenge the status quo with creating beautiful design, a beautiful object that you want to have in your hands. This object, by the way, is a computer, a phone, or a stream media object. It inspired me. If you don't want to read the book, because it's just 200 pages, I think, it's not many pages. If you don't want to read the book, you can watch the TED Talks. He says pretty much the same things. So the agenda of today is why, how, and what. So we start with why. Yeah, this is a bit of Italian gesture, so I think me as Italian, I can teach you some Italian gesture. This one is easy, why. So why we want to make, the reason why we go every day to the office in Alfresco is because we want to help you doing digital transformation in easy way. So we want to make digital transformation easy. This is the why we go every day in the office in Alfresco. You know what is a digital transformation. I think many of you are involved in projects of digital transformation. Digital transformation is I have some content. I usually do some processing of this content that I have. This processing produces data, collaboration, insight. From this data, from this collaboration, from this insight, I get more content. I do more processing on this data. This one is what we define digital flow. We want to make easy this process of digital flowing. The reason why you shouldn't build your digital business platform is because it's complex, takes time, is expensive to make, also to maintain, and also is completely outside of your domain. Usually when your customers comes to you, they don't ask you to create them a transformation process, in general a digital transformation machine. They comes to you with the problems, how you can solve this problem from us. So you shouldn't be spending your time in things that someone have already built for you. Also, you shouldn't spend your money to maintain those things. So how we do it? So how we making digital transformation easy? The way that we are making digital transformation easy is in creating the service you need, reducing the complexity, increase developers' productivity. We are using standard customizable user design, providing fast time to value, high quality software, innovation, and collaboration with the community. So let's see this point one by one. The services that you need. Usually when you do digital transformation, the kind of service that you need is a process. You want to ingest all the information that are inside your digital business platform. You want to store this information somewhere, so you need a content service. You want to search for this information, otherwise why you have it there. And of course, you want to do many other things. You want inside, you want identity, you want to transform files, you want external connector with external services. So you need many blocks. And usually, it's expensive to make these things. It requires a lot of time. And maybe you don't even have the skills in your company to build all these blocks. These things, of course, brings a lot of complexity. So any of these services have their own APIs. These APIs have a lot of endpoints. And usually one use case that can be, for example, a list of files doesn't map one-to-one with an endpoint. So usually it's more likely that one use case, like show me all the list of files, let me do some interaction with this list of files, involves many calls to many of these endpoints. So it's complex, and we want to reduce this complexity. The way that we reduce this complexity in Alfresco is in creating components. These components brings many of those API calls together. For example, our big use case is blocks. That can be, in this case, is a list of process. Give me a list of process and let me do interaction with this list of process. Show me the details of this list of process. Show me the next page. Show me all the people involved with this process, or show the task associated to me. So as you can see, these blocks are our components, and each of these components that we allow you easily to bring inside our application with just one HTML tag, as behind the scene the complexity of the logic and the call of all those APIs. Then another thing that we do, we make standard customizable user design. Even though we have a lot of components, you can bring them together, you will keep having a consistent design. The application will still look the same. For example, this one on the left is a content application. This one on the right is a process application. They do different things. They have different components, but they still looks coming from the same company. So you don't have a different user experience moving from one application to another with different use cases. These components, this design are all customizable, so you can really make resemble the design of the company for which you are implementing these components. We want to also provide a fast time to value. The way we are doing it is using standard technology. So we go and use technologies that are already standard de facto in the community, widely used. So when you have to hire someone to do something with our platform, they will know the technologies. They are easy to learn technologies. Even if you are not a front-end developer, or if you are a front-end developer that is using other technologies, these technologies are familiar, because if you are a reactive developer, we are using Angular, but if you are a reactive developer, you still know how works an object-oriented framework. Or if you are a Java developer, you look at Angular, you will see that in there, because they are using TypeScript, they're using the same injection framework that you may have already seen with Spring, you feel yourself quite comfortable. There are things that resemble you, the other world where you were coming from. We want to reduce the boilerplate code. So things complex, like a login component here, they can easily brought in inside the application, putting just this HTML tag. We also offer scaffolding tool. So if you have to create your application, we provide you the tools that will allow you to create your application with just few steps, and tooling to create also components and many other things around our framework. We have a detailed documentation, a release strategy where we release often and we follow semantic versioning. Of course, the fact that we are releasing often is up to you. Then pick the release that you want. We don't force anyone to be there and update their application every month or every 6 months. Of course, we know that when you release, you want to have a kind of stability in your application. But the fact that we release often following the semantic versioning will let you feel comfortable in upgrading or not. Because you're looking at the version of our framework, you will know exactly if you need to do anything inside your application to make it compatible, or you just upgrade and everything will be fine. We do a lot of testing around this thing. And we also release a lot of articles to explain you how to upgrade from one version to another. And in case we release a breaking version, we tell you what exactly was broken there and how to get around this thing. High quality. We are really obsessed about quality. The quality, we do unit testing, security testing, automation testing. We like clean coding, so when you look inside at our code, you will see that it's quite clear what we want to do, what we want to achieve when we write a component. Everything is public. We don't hide anything of these stats. We have public code coverage. We have a public CI, a public GitHub, and a Jira project with all the issues inside. Our contribution is based on pull request. So everything we merge inside our component, inside our framework, has been reviewed at least from 2 developers. As I said, we have extensive documentation too. So we also take a lot we spend a lot of time in innovation. We often also do things that then we cannot really translate in enterprise value. But we like to try new things and innovate as much as possible. And we use Angular, Material, Docker, Kubernetes, microservices infrastructure, Spring Cloud, AWS. Of course, we use all these things that looks complex. But when we build all these things, we try to hide as much as possible the complexity of these tools from you. We collaborate with the community. Alfresco, as you know, is open source, so it's transparent. All the code is public, it's not hidden. People for us matter. So if anyone can create issues in our repository, everyone can submit code and pull requests and improve our code base. And anyone can create documentation, guides, blog posts, documentation that is useful to the other people in the community. This one is what? So what we created the Alfresco Digital Business Platform with because we want to make easier the digital transformation. The Digital Business Platform is a set of services that we offer in Alfresco. The process service, the content service, the governance service, intelligence, analytics, search. On top of that, we have a lot of APIs that you can extend. Integration with the AWS and many other external frameworks. And also, we have the application development framework that is more the UI part of our digital business platform, where users usually interact with. Of course, all these are layers. You can choose which one you want to pick of our digital business platform. If you don't want to use our application development framework, it's fine. You can still use our APIs. If you don't want to use the process service, you want to just use the content service, you are free to do it. And the same things for all the other layers. It's really customizable and up to you what you want to use from our digital business platform. How are we doing with time? 10 minutes, so I still have time. So now let's talk a little bit what is ADF. ADF, as I said, is the layer on top of the digital business platform. In ADF, we have 4 pillars. We had 3 before, now we have 4. We are growing pillars. Meanwhile, we have, I don't know, in 1 year maybe we'll have a cathedral. We have Angular components that is based on TypeScript, Angular, and material design. We have the JavaScript API that is compatible with any JavaScript framework. We have the scaffolders tools, that is the app generator, where usually you start when you want to create a new app from scratch. And we have the example apps, which we released the first one a couple of months ago. We released the first example app, which is based on content. And we have also another ADF app, which is for process. This one is only enterprise, is not open source. This one is the four ADF pillars. The kind of technologies that we use on ADF, as I said, we use Angular 2, Angular Material Design as a frameworks, languages, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and TypeScript. As a development tools, we use NPM, Yeoman, Node, This one is the Angular CLI that we use to scaffold applications. About testing, we use Jasmine and Selenium frameworks for automation testing. Here you can see all the packages that we have in Node. So these are the ADF packages. They are divided, as you can see, with the name of the services that we offer in Alfresco. Process service, content services, insight. We will soon also have a governance services packages. But what I want to show you in this slide is that we offer a lot of complex components to serve the use cases that I was telling you before. But there are things that we don't want to build in ADF. Things like icons, buttons, input text, options. These things are not really in the domain of our problem. As you don't have things inside your domain, we don't have things in our domain. And these are not the things that we want to solve. We don't want to rewrite HTML. We want to write things more complex, like document lists, like forms, like metadata, search, this complex thing. So anytime you will need something like that, you will be able to use the Angular material design component. So this is the way that we leverage this kind of things, this granularity. This a little bit another view of the kind of architecture of the framework. So we have behind the scene all the REST API layer, which you may are more familiar with. The REST API layer of the content service, of the process service, of the governance service. All these REST API layers are made consistent today using the Alfresco JavaScript API, which gives you a unique access point to all these REST endpoints with a unique login and a consistent object-oriented way of accessing these informations. And all the components that we have inside our Angular framework, they interact with this layer, Alfresco JavaScript API, in order to talk with the REST APIs. Usually a component is composed of these 4 files. This one is for testing. It's not really maybe important for you. Here we have all the styles, the HTML, and the logic of a component. The important things of the ADF, I was talking also before with some of you about the old extension paradigm that we had in Alfresco that is quite difficult to be used. So with the ADF, we decided to take a different approach. Since the beginning, we decided that the code base of the developers that works with Alfresco and the code base of Alfresco shouldn't merge in any point. So we decided to offer a clear extension points on top of the framework that we will have, that we will make sure that they will keep working. Anything happen, any upgrade we do to our framework, or anything we will be changing to our framework. And we put a lot of emphasis in testing these extension points. So today, if you want to extend any of the components, you can use one of these 3 extension points, which are HTML extension points. Like, I don't know, when you put a button inside your HTML page, you can put the name of the button in between the open and the close of the tag. And you will see the name of the button appearing somewhere inside your page. The same things you can do with our components. You can put some HTML, even complex HTML. We will transpire this HTML inside the component in place that we decide that where the right place where to show it. Event listener, as today, if you can put on a button events like on click, or mouse over, or mouse leave, these kind of events. We offer events even on our components. For example, there is the example of the login component. When you log in the component, you have events that will tell you if the login was successful or not, or for the validations. And then there is a config properties, which is the 3rd extension points, which is more a fixed parameters, like like the style, for example, of the classic HTML, where you can define some properties there, and they will change the look and feel of your button of your HTML component. So this one are the common pitfalls. customize or extend. So we don't want you to change our components. Maybe as you were used to do in the past with the share, we don't want you to go inside the components, remove all the things that are in there. We want you to use the extension points of a component. So, how are we doing with the time? Because I can carry on talking for the entire night. Okay, as I said, we follow semantic version, so you will know when you need to change, you need to react to the upgrade that we do. So it's completely safe upgrade from one version to another, unless we change the major version. If we change the minor version, you just get bug fixing and new features. If we upgrade the patch version, you just get patched. You just get bug fixing. We release once a month. Every month we do a standard release. Every week we do beta release. And every pull request that is merged on the framework, so every time there is a developer merging something in our code base, we release an alpha version. So then it's up to you what level of stability you want to go to. Of course, they all included the pull request, they go through the CI system, so they get the unit tests run. There is a certain level of automation there. We make sure that you can use that release. But of course, the level of features complete and testing that goes through the weekly and the monthly release is much higher. So as I said, usually in a release, we release an article. You can go there and read it and understand all the new features that we have released. Also, we tell you in case we break something what to do in order to get around this thing. Quality, we already talked about quality. So this one is really important, is the where you start when you want to create a new application with ADF. I don't suggest you to start just with an empty Angular application. We offer you a scaffolder, which is the Alfresco generator. With this generator, you can create a content application, a process application, or process plus content application. We already wired inside there all the libraries, all the things needed. So it's already a good starting point for you to speed up your development without you have to start from scratch. Today, as I said, we offer also the example app, which gives you even more. So there are more functionality there. There is design thinking. We worked a lot with our designer in order to bring in a coherent way all these functionalities together. Deployment, when you think about an ADF app, how you want to deploy it, the first question that you should ask yourself is how I'll deploy an Angular app. So an ADF app is an Angular app. Is most of the cases when you compile it is a static HTML code. So is how you would deploy any other Angular single page application, you will do the same things with an ADF app. So as I said, we are on Gitter. Sorry, we work a lot with the community. We are on Gitter. There are on our Gitter channel, if you want to subscribe, in there are all the developers and the people from the community. Any question, if you want to come and just talk with us about features or in general about Angular and any other things related to what we do, we are happy to welcome you in the Gitter channel. And yeah, the guys all the developers are there pretty much 24 hours on 24 hours. Not 24 hours because sometimes they sleep. They are often there answering questions. Yeah, I think I have finished. So I have other slides if you want, but I think we want to hear also from Mauricio. Unless there are any questions. Yep. So this is a good question. So we did some research at the beginning. We researched React, web components, and Angular. In the end, we decided to go for Angular because it was the one that had more tooling around the ecosystem. For example, if you take web components, you have to write all the framework behind the scene by yourself. If you go for React, you don't have the presentation. You have only the view system. You don't have things like injection framework. You have to bring some other technologies. At that time, they didn't even have the CLI or that they now are building. So mostly the choice was based on the completeness of the framework and the tool and around it. So we went for Angular because there were a lot of tools around it. And also it was offering us this kind of framework that many of the developers in our company are full stack developer. So Angular, if you are a Java developer, for example, really reassemble you anything you have done with Spring and Java. It has an injection framework. The kind of syntax is really similar because TypeScript and Java are both strong typed, and they use the kind of same system of creating classes. No problem. Uh-huh. Yeah. So in reality, I don't mention Angular 2. It's just Angular, because now they made the difference that the old Angular, the Angular 1, is Angular JS. Everything from Angular 2 and above is Angular. So in reality, we are on Angular 4 right now, 5 now. Okay. We keep upgrading to the latest versions of Angular all the times they release a new version. Any other question? Do you want to know more about Italian gestures? No? Okay, thank you guys. Thanks.